Hey everyone, and or welcome back. So we've talked about feeding on this channel before, but what are some ways to know that your baby is hungry? So we're going to talk about feeding cues. The best way to determine feeding cues is going to be getting in tune with your baby in particular and learning your baby's schedule. So like I said before, on average, most babies like to eat between every 2 to 4 hours. By no means does that mean that you need to stick to a strict every 3-hour schedule, but if you're feeding your baby at least every 3 hours and you know that you're meeting the minimum requirements. So maybe your baby is one of those that likes to eat every 3.5 hours, or maybe they're every 2 hours and 55 minutes. It's just a matter of learning your baby's schedule, and as much as we hate to admit it, especially in the very beginning, yes, baby is boss until we can get baby on a more day-night routine as far as sleeping through the night. So getting in tune with your baby's schedule is going to help you out a whole lot when determining when your baby is being fussy because they're hungry versus when they're being fussy because there may be something else wrong. So the other thing is, speaking of fussiness, you don't want to wait until your baby is completely just screaming and crying and, kicking up a whole lot of energy, because at that point it's going to take work to get them to settle back down so that they will actually eat. So we try to catch them in what's called the awake alert stage, which is when they're just waking up, their eyes are just starting to open, they're just kind of starting to look around. That's when you want to go ahead and pick baby up, meet their needs as far as, is their diaper soiled, or do they maybe have some extra gas from the previous feeding? You want to go ahead and take care of that first, and then go ahead and introduce the nipple, whether it's their breast or a bottle. So catch them when they're first waking up if you can, but you're only going to be able to do that if you're paying attention to their schedules and when they actually like to eat. The other thing to pay attention to, especially for the breastfeeding mamas, are their hands. So when they're super hungry, their fists will be super tight and balled up. And yes, most babies do genuinely have tight fists for most of the time, because that's just their natural default. But when they're hungry, that little fist is going to be super tight. But when they're at the breast, if they relax their hand on your chest, that's their way of saying that they're full. So you want to pay attention to, when you're nursing them, what are their hands looking like? Are they constantly grabbing? Are they grabbing and pulling towards their face? Because that's usually their way of saying, I need more, give me all of it. So you want to pay attention to what their hands are doing, if they seem to be grabbing at you and trying to pull, or are their hands just relaxed, or are they even letting their hand fall down or falling asleep. That's another great way to know that they're full. So just pay attention to their cues. If they are constantly thrusting their tongue, they're searching for the nipple. So when seems like they're just playing with their lips or playing with their tongue, they are most likely searching for the nipple because they're ready to eat, and that usually happens right before they get to crying. Now, on the flip side, there are some babies that will not give you a feeding cue of when they're full. And then those babies are the ones that you have to pay super, super close attention to. Those are the babies that we call our sucklers. Those babies tend to just continue to suckle past the point of being full. So if you notice that you're feeding the baby and within, 10, 15 minutes, they're throwing up, but it's completely liquid. It's not curdled. It's not chunky. It's just fresh milk. That means that they've taken in too much. So for those babies, you won't be able to rely as much on their cues. For those babies, you typically have to time their feedings, whether it's at the breast or from a bottle. So you want to make sure that you're not overfeeding them, but definitely meeting their nutritional needs. So that's it for today's video. Hope you learned something, because that means that I've done my job. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.